allowed the children.
It's okay. It's okay. Off your mic. It's okay.
She
off your mic.
like me.
Chai! Now wow, people wey suppose talk truth to power don't off mic. And if we talk, now 500,000 they go summer us, call them hate speech. But fear not, my ego don't come. Ingo touchlight every corner, nooks and cranny of all these bad people where they spoil our country. So my people make we laugh, oh, yo. My ego don't come, oh, yo. My people make we shout, oh, yo. My ego don't come, oh, yo. My ego don't come, man of the masses, oh, yo. My ego don't come, oh, yo. My ego diary politico, oh, yo. My ego don't come, oh, yo. This one not the off in mind, oh, yo. My ego don't come, oh, yo. And in the touchlight every corner, oh, yo. My ego don't come, oh, yo. Okay, some people be they holla say they want the power. Chai, them be promise us say we go get light and power. Nah. Them hustle sote they can't get the power. But now they know they do anything with the power. Every day, dollar just they get the higher power over naira. Still them talk say make we off mind. But thank God say my ego don't come. So my people make you lie down, yo. My ego don't come, oh, yo. My people make we shout, oh, yo. My ego don't come, oh, yo. My ego don't come, man of the masses, oh, yo. My ego don't come, oh, yo. My ego diary politico, oh, yo. My ego don't come, oh, yo. This one not the off in mind, oh, yo. My ego don't come, oh, yo. Person where they do evil, no one make person talk. Them say that my egun, that man too they talk. He too they talk. Say my egun diary, he they hot like pepper. But every day then they take money in bulk. Woman picking, they the street they hawk. Still them talk say make we no talk. But thank God say my egun don't come.
Hello there.
Mayegun la wa mo jojojojo. Mayegun la wa mo jojojojo. Ọ̀rẹ́ ara lórí Facebook, lórí YouTube.
Good morning to you, good afternoon to you, and good evening to you, or happy Sunday to you from wherever you are joining us this moment. It is Mayegun, and it is Sunday Sermon Live. Today, I want to rejig our memory and remind us all that the more things changes, the more they remain the same. 26 years ago, millions of poor or impoverished, subjugated, enslaved Nigerians took to the streets to celebrate the death of Abacha. They celebrated what they felt was freedom at last. 26 years after that, people are now looking back and they are like, were you lied to? If Abacha didn't die, would you still have the same memory of him? And those who told us the evil of Abacha, those who ingrained them in our memories, They are now in charge of Nigeria. 26 years after that, Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world. The corruption that people have never seen before, the lawlessness, the abuse of rights, people now disappear just at will, just by expressing themselves. The difference between then and now, they did not have social media. We have social media. The more the thing changes, the more they remain the same. And it is only the lunatics that love to do same thing again and again and expect a different result. Good afternoon to you, good morning to you, and good evening to you from wherever you are joining this Sunday sermon from. A quick reminder, Sunday sermon is not like the other programs, remember, especially to those of you who recently joined. Sunday sermon is like you come into the temple, which is the temple of truth. Mayegun's Diary Politico. You are seated there, relaxed, and you are ready to actually hear the truth, no matter the language, the tone of his delivery. Now, sometimes it will make you uncomfortable. Not the real truth. It could be how it is said. So being politically correct, or somehow soliciting for unity, like begging for unity online. Let us be united. Let us this or that, please. You would have to keep them to yourself. Just for your own sake. And if you can't, if you are the type who love respecting just for respecting sake, not because anybody hand it, you are likely also not going to be comfortable. I like saying this at the beginning of the sermon, because the moment that the floodgate is opened, I would no longer care about whose ox is God. Just a reminder, kind of like a caveat. So yesterday, the 8th of June, 2024, makes it, or made it the 26th year that Abacha died. And it was so sudden that it threw the entire country into, first, a state of confusion, a state of shock, then a state of jubilation. If you grew up in the 90s, like myself, you are probably an adult now. You are now, for those who have chosen to have children, you are parents now too. Well, this was the time that personally I didn't understand the economic hardship. I didn't understand why. But I remember very vividly that Abacha was not just a dictator. Abacha was evil. And he was so present, even at the remotest of the remotest communities in Nigeria. It is like today's generation who are now familiar with DSS, Daura Secret Service, or Dokwe Stupid Service, the ones that are hunting people who say something about the government. This was what life was. You don't know who was a spy. Everyone just believed that you do not know who you are talking to. So be very careful when you are talking about Abacha, because you could disappear. Those bold typical for all generations, bold writers, publishers, those that will always go for the broke, those that will dare where the giants will never tread. Majority of them disappeared without any charges, picked up by the special squad of Abacha. You have to be very careful. But generally, the entire country was gloomy. The poverty was prevalent. I shared in that experience. We were so poor, the economy was so tough that people were cooking, people were eating things that I probably, some of you who experienced that will look back today and be like, I remember. We were cooking with, what do you call it, wood shavings, sawdust, because you couldn't afford to go and buy kerosene. At the time, there were friends of government who were telling people that this was necessary. Like, it's okay. Abacha was just trying to, just like the Bokuwari's government, Tinubu's government, using the state security apparatuses to chase after their suspected political enemies. That was exactly what it was under Abacha. Abacha was president, and there were conventions, there were different rallies here and there, and Abacha was hunting down those. They were asking him, we're saying to him that it was illegitimate, like some of us are saying, Tinubu is illegitimate. But you see, those who were pretty much like the identified critics of Abacha at the time, they were easily sort of welcomed by the people thinking they are fighting on their behalf. Many of them were double agents who were working for Abacha, and they were also members of those who were like the opposition. Nothing new, just different characters and all that. So it was 1 November in 1993 that after the breakdown of relationship between MKO Abiola and the military boys, Babangida and co, including Abacha, right? It became obvious that Babangida had to really go. So Babangida decided to go and bring someone who was not like part of the military or anything, or a government contractor, Shonekon, to become an interim president. However, from record, they said all of the supposed junior officers to Babangida that were sacked, like they were like senior ranking officers, Abacha was deliberately left behind. And when Babangida was asked why, he said Nigeria needed someone to manage its fragile security, national security threat of that time. And any government that come to power, they needed someone. And the only person that was capable of holding Nigeria together, especially for interim government of Shonekon, was Abacha. Now, the story of Abacha is, again, just so for the sake of my listeners, the story of Abacha is in two ways, okay? For some of us who are looking back today, right, it was pretty much like a breakup of agreement between the khaki boys and then the unscrupulous criminal politicians who parade themselves as civilians. From the record, there was no coup that happened in Nigeria without the influence, the funding, especially of the civilians, the politicians, okay? So most of the time, the arrangement is that there will be they will be invited into the government once the coup succeed. And whenever they talk for transition into civilian comes up, they will be positioned to take over from their friends. So therefore, majority of those who later became the victims of their power war between the khaki boys and the civilian guys who are the unscrupulous criminal politicians of Nigeria. So those who became victims because of that breakdown of that relationship, power. So when you roll it back, Babangida, when Babangida was banning and unbanning different political groups before finally agreeing to conduct that of 1993, MKO Abiola was solidly behind Babangida's decision. Yeah. Because they were like, oh, we are suspecting that these ones are spending too much money. Babangida was changing his transition dates like about 4 times or 3 times, right? Which was, I would tell them, they were like, they would call their friends who are not military. They'll say, we wanted to go and start political party. You, Chief Abdullahi Siroma, you go and start a party. You, MKO Abiola, go and start a party, kind of that way, right? Then the two, they will now say the government has formed a 2 party. So these 2 political parties, this is the rule of the game. Now go out there and campaign. So as usual, right, it's going to be about money. Okay, so Babangida was now blaming too much money, too much this, too much that during those transition periods. So he would change it and change it and change it until local coup happened. That shook him. So finally, he now sort of agreed that he was going to transfer to civilian. They now formed 2 parties. So good enough. Their power. Abiola became the major presidential candidate of one. Another guy, Tofa, was made one too. So this permutation behind the scene were just like putting up a show to make people believe that, okay, yeah, we are now going to go and choose our own representatives so that nobody is going to, you know what I mean? Like, it was like that charade. Well, along the line, what's the guy's name again? Zeribe just got a court order that stopped the announcement of the results as part of the scheme, right? Riot broke out. MKO Abiola left Nigeria. Walasha happened to the point that Shonekan became the interim president. So it was like, okay, they were going to do another election. MKO Abiola spent too much money. This one, they rigged the election there. This one was this, you know what I mean? Like, as usual. But this time, Babangida was going to step aside for real. So that it's not going to be part of it anymore. So that people who don't trust him, right, who didn't trust him, they can deal with the new guy. So they put another arrangement there. They now put Abacha to protect that arrangement. So there's an unverified record that while Abiola was waiting for Abacha to do the right thing because they were friends too. Okay, in fact, they were really friends, but not as close as that of MKO Abiola and Babangida. So there is this unverified stuff, right? That's like Babangida was, MKO Abiola was waiting, okay, for Abacha to compel Shonekan, okay, to give, kind of like the order that the suspended announcement of results should be concluded and he should be declared winner. And since it's like Shonekan was not going to do that, so it was easier when they said, this is also not verified though, but it was part of the stuff we are hearing out there then, right? So they said Abacha sought the, the support of Abiola. Say, you are the winner. I will take over the government, get rid of Shonekan, and I can then return you to, hand over to you. And they said MKO Abiola did not flinch. He was like, yeah, go for it. Because that won't be the first time of his like saying, yeah, go on. If you know the kind of person Abiola was, it was one of the biggest government contractors in Nigeria. He made so much money, right, from Nigerian military boys that Nigeria started owing him money. You're talking about MKO Abiola promising to write off Nigeria debt. Like, take for example, Abiola made so much money from the military guys, right, to the point that they were owing him so much. His debt is part of the Nigerian national debt. It's like saying Nigeria is owing local debt to. Nigeria is owing 4 trillion naira. And out of that 4 trillion naira, Nigeria is owing Abiola over 2 trillion alone. So that was how big Abiola was, right? So his consent to, yeah, go ahead. So Abacha in a palace school, no gunshots, no nothing, right? Just made this announcement like, you remember this if you grew up in the 80s.
Nigerians, sequel to the resignation of the former head of the interim national government and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Chief Ernest Shonekan, and my subsequent appointment as head of state and Commander-in-Chief, I have had extensive consultations within the Armed Forces hierarchy and other well-meaning Nigerians in a bid to find solutions to the various political, economic, and social problems which have engulfed our beloved country and which have made life most difficult to the ordinary citizens of this nation. Chief Ernest Shonekan took over as head of state and Commander-in-Chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces at the most trying time in the history of our country. Politically, economically, and socially, there were lots of uncertainties. Things appeared bleak, and the atmosphere was heavy with uncertainties. However, driven by the belief in himself, his countrymen, and love for his country, he accepted to face the challenges of our time. I will therefore like to take this opportunity to pay tribute to him for his selfless service to the nation. He showed great courage at taking on the daunting task of heading the interim national government, even a greater courage to know when to leave. Many have expressed fears about the apparent return of the military. Many have talked about the concern of the international community. However, under the present circumstances, the survival of our beloved country is far above any other consideration. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must therefore solve our problems ourselves. We must lay a very solid foundation for the growth of true democracy. We should avoid any ad hoc or temporary solutions. The problems must be addressed firmly, objectively, decisively, and with all sincerity of purpose. Consequently, the following decisions come into immediate effect. The interim national government is hereby dissolved. The national and state assemblies are also dissolved. The state executive councils are dissolved. The brigade commanders are to take over from the governors in their states until administrators are appointed. Where there are no brigade commanders, the commissioners of police in the states are to take over. All local governments stand dissolved. The directors of personnel are to take over the administration of the local governments until administrators are appointed. The National Electoral Commission is hereby dissolved. All former secretaries to federal ministries are to hand over to their director generals until ministers are appointed. The two political parties are hereby dissolved. All processions, political meetings, and associations of any type in any part of the country are hereby banned. Any consultative committee, by whatever name called, is hereby proscribed. Decree 61 of 1993 is hereby abrogated. A provisional ruling council is hereby established. It will comprise the head of state, commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as chairman, the chief of general staff as vice chairman, the honorable minister of defense, the chief of defense staff, service chiefs, the inspector general of police, the attorney general and minister of justice, the internal affairs minister, the foreign affairs minister, and the national security advisor. Legislative powers will reside in the council. States will be governed by civilian administrators to be appointed later. Also, a federal executive council will be put in place. Our security system will be enhanced to ensure that lives of citizens, property of individuals are protected and preserved. Drugs trafficking and other economic crimes such as 419 must be tackled and eliminated. On the current strikes throughout the nation, following the increase in the price of fuel, I appeal to all the trade unions to return to work immediately. We cannot afford further dislocation and destruction of our economy. On the closed media houses, government is hereby lifting the order of proscription with immediate effect. We, however, appeal to the media houses that in this spirit of national reconciliation, we should show more restraint and build a united and peaceful Nigeria. Fellow Nigerians, the events of the past month, starting from the annulment of the June 12 presidential election, culminating in the appointment of the former head of state, Chief Anas Shanekan, are well known to you. The economic downturn has undoubtedly been aggravated by the ongoing political crisis. We require a well thought out and permanent solution to these problems if we are to emerge stronger from them. Consequently, a constitutional conference with full constituent powers will be established soon to determine the future constitutional structure of Nigeria. The Constitutional Conference will also recommend the method of forming parties, which will lead to the ultimate recognition of political parties formed by the people. While the conference is on, the reorganization and reform of the following major institutions will be carried out: the military, the police, the customs, the judiciary, NITEL, NNPC, NEPA, the banking industry, and our higher institutions of learning. This regime will be firm, humane, and decisive. We will not condone nor tolerate any act of indiscipline. Any attempt to test our will be decisively dealt with. For the international community, we ask that you suspend judgment while we grapple with the onerous task of nation building, reconciliation.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
That was, I don't know if I remember vividly, November 17, 1993. Yes. Abacha declared himself president. Based on his consultation, the civilians were offered to become state governors, and they took it. Okay? He also promised the politicians, National Constitutional Conference, we have to bring that together so that we can now decide on how to form political parties. Our country an economic crisis, economic crisis that we are facing, blah, 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 blah. How many of you seated there, apart from those of you who probably will say, oh, I remember that day. How many of you seated there could see similarity in what Abacha said in that video 31 years ago? How many of you see the similarity with what they are saying today? We have no other country but this Nigeria. We must, all the economy, blah, 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 blah. Our people have been going through a lot, so we need to help them, kind of. And that's pretty much what these same guys are telling you today, isn't it? So 31 years ago, it was said at the time that that speech was one of the most heartbreaking speech MKO Abiola ever heard in his life. And it was pretty much the last. Because that was so far, far, far off from their agreements. The agreement was for him to what? To remove a Shonekon. And then since the court did not stop the announcement of the state governor, and some of the state governors were going to be governors, civilian. So Abacha should just come in for a few months, and Abacha is having a different plan. So immediately Abacha announced himself. Of course, those who were not part of the sharing at the time, they quickly assembled behind Abiola. Abiola has been betrayed by his own friend. He is never going to be president if he failed to do something. So then the same Abacha used the same people around Abiola, the same people who collect money from Abacha. They told Abiola to come back to Nigeria and declare himself, since Abacha won't do it. A Wetedo declaration, you remember that? Even at that point, when he declared himself, and Abacha heard that on the radio, and they quickly deployed the soldiers to go grab him. Abiola had the chance of escaping, but his friends told him Nigerians were ready to march. Abiola should stay. Abiola was already at what we heard, though, he was on his way to a private airstrip, not to the airport. Even though he granted a BBC interview where he said, I'm inside my car. That was when he was grabbed, because he had to come back when he was being tailed. He could have left, and but he was told he shouldn't. He should stay. There are a little more pressure. International communities, Nigerians and the rest. Boom, Abacha will succumb. That never happened, because the moment Abiola was grabbed, those who told him to declare himself, those who said all that needed at the time was to further the pressure, and that was all Nigeria needed. They ended up joining Abacha. You see, whatever you are witnessing today in Nigeria, young people who are now calling it a gig, collecting propaganda job from APC, PDP, the establishment of Nigeria, to continue to confuse you, using a tribe, ethnic, religious, and all of these things to keep us divided. They are not new. After Abacha started hunting those he suspected as his political enemies, just like Bokwari was hunting those he suspected as his political enemies, putting them up on the trump-up charges. Abacha did it too. Those were just people who were like having chats among friends, or they were having a phone conversation. They didn't know they have tapped their phones, or those who grant interviews, and then from their interview they said something, they disappeared. Those few lucky ones were actually tried and convicted of treasonable felonies. There are many others that were not successful. They were not so lucky. They were killed. Others that disappeared the day Abacha died. over 1,400 journalists. Yeah, you heard me right. That people thought they were dead, but they were languishing in different prisons all over Nigeria. In 5 years of Abacha, the day he died, over 1,400 journalists, human rights activists, this or that, or random people were freed from jail who were never really tried, or maybe tried and convicted. I'm talking about those who were like missing, that people thought they were dead. That was how brutal Abacha was. And that is still happening in Nigeria today. 36 states in Nigeria. The governors there, they are little Hitlers, lawless criminals. Whatever you witness at the center is the reflection of what is happening in the remaining 36 states plus Abuja, 37. That was how Abacha was. Abacha was very clear. Everybody is robbing these people. It's my turn. Why are you ganging up? Why are you trying to remove me? I will do everything to keep this power. Just like the successive criminals sacrificed thousands, tens of thousands of Nigerian lives on fake elections just to keep power, only to get to that power and punish Nigerians, loot them blind, abuse them, break the laws as they like, because they're always above it anyway. That was what Abacha was like. Many of you remember that they told us, yes, those who were telling us how evil Abacha was, the reason why we were hungry, we were starving, people were like losing jobs, no value, this or that, right? The same thing you are witnessing 31 years after now. How many of you remember that they actually ingrained it in our memory that Abacha was an illiterate? How many of you will remember that? That Abacha could barely speak any, could barely join, string together 3 words to make a sentence. How many of you remember that? So if you are witnessing propaganda today, it has always been in existence. The more things changes, the more they remain the same. Today, you are seeing young people collecting gigs, from politicians to defend the horrible, horrible policies that affects them too. But they will tell you, you are wrong. The government is doing its best. You are just an hater. You are just enemy of the country. Why do you hate Nigeria? Blah, 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 blah. And Nigerians were just in the middle of it. Porn. So Abacha was fighting the politicians because he knew they were all the same. But we didn't know. It was this evil that poor people were praying that something should happen, God should intervene. But why people were praying for Abacha to buy northern Nigeria? It was being prayed for, not just that. Across Nigeria, there were young people. They were clamoring for Abacha to become a civilian president, like Museveni of Uganda, like some of those who turned themselves to civilian president later. People like Paul Biya of Cameroon. Abacha was going to transform to a civilian president, and there were Nigerians, artists. Today, you see artists, filmmakers, Nollywood actors, actresses. You are seeing musicians. Some of you are even surprised to see footballers. Oh, footballers were successful, but they are supporting tinubu. Oh, no. Young people who were the victims of the bad governance at the time, the real victims who were jobless, who were poor, they were willing and ready to join Abacha's youth earnestly ask for Abacha. Earnestly ask for Abacha. And guess those who headlined the rallies, 2 million Nigerians, 2 million youth asked for Abacha to become their civilian president. Finidi George, Daniel Amokachi, J.J. Okocha, John Fashanu, the musicians, Shino Peters, Pasuma Wonder, King Sani Ade, Chief Kolinti Anyila, Oyeka Onwenu, just like that, Daddy Shoki, and all of those, the reigning musicians or reigning stars of that era. No matter what you remember of Abacha, I hope you remember this too, especially John Fashanu's speech in March 1998. And that was 26 years ago. And compare that time and now that you have young people who are like struggling graduates, jobless young people whose only ambition is to become special advisors, personal assistants to criminals in government, and they are ready to tell you that it is not what you think. These people also, they are very good. Forget about all the bad things you hear. People were doing that, including people that were not poor. They were headlining the campaign for Abacha to continue.
The undying Sani Abacha.
In the world today, Nigerian youth have continued to achieve accolades in all spheres of human endeavor. In sport, in science, technology, in the entertainment field, in the industrial world, in every facet of human existence, a Nigerian head must be found proudly towering among the best and the brightest of the world. The performance of Nigerian sportsmen and women in recent world competitions is a glowing tribute to the fact that our youth have made up their minds to rocket our nation to the forefront of world recognition, where they rightly belong. We should recall with pride that under this present administration, in 1993, we won the Under-17 World Cup in Japan. And in 1994, we won the African Cup of Nations in Tunisia. And the same year, our nation put up a fantastic performance at the World Cup in America. And again, in 1996, our youth conquered the world by winning the soccer gold and the long jump gold in Atlanta. And this year, 1998, we are on course to win the World Cup. I am proud to be associated with the efforts currently being made to ensure that our nation gets the deserved victory in France. We, the youth of our nation, should be thankful we have such a man with foresight and a high sense of responsibility in the person of Air Commodore Emeka Imarawa, our Minister of Youth and Sport. In spite of the enormous problems which face all Africans who dare to excel or to achieve greatness in the developed nations, many of our youth, in the true spirit of the impressible Nigerians, refuse to give up, to engage in searching for lasting solutions to our national and international problems, which can only be brought about through a purpose, courageous and honest leadership. For it is only such a leadership that can bring about the desired final solution to the problems that threaten the aspirations of our youth. I call on all of us to rededicate ourselves to the service and love of our dear beloved nation. Most importantly, let us please remember what a former head of state once said. Indeed, our generations of Nigerians and future generations of Nigerians have no other country but Nigeria. We must remain here and salvage it together. Brothers and sisters, distinguished guests.
Nuisance Lele.
And for the record, those were like international stars, Nigerian footballers. So money wasn't an issue, so they are not like a poor. So some of you are seeing them today singing the praises of tinubu, international stars. They did it 26 years ago. So whatever you are doing online, whatever you are seeing or witnessing online today, they existed back then too. And as for Abacha, it was going to be, nobody was going to stop him. Because like he said in his coup speech, he said he was going to organize a national conference. Indeed, he organized it. And they picked a date to transfer from military to civilian. But under one condition, at that conference, the entire conference agreed. They created 5 political parties. So 5 political parties out of the national conference organized by Abacha, all of the 5 political parties adopted Abacha as their presidential candidate. But for governor, senate, and all of that, all of you, if you go contest that one. Do you understand? That was what prompted this year campaign. And since they knew then that Nigerians are always attracted to their own stars, put it that way, football created those guys, and victory from it is what they were savoring. So the establishment had to milk it. Because if a portion of the population can see their stars, all of them all together, telling you how greatly they were helped by this dictator, and his leadership style is going to help the Nigerians of that generation and the generations yet unborn. They don't born una now. 26 years ago, some of you watching me right now, you were not born. They were talking about you because back then, the man that controls the level of power is like next to God. You know, so they say God be patient. Like if God should be punishing us based on our transgressions, majority of us go down by or go down turn to something else. But the person that is the president of Nigeria can determine where you are going to die. As long as he is breathing, is as powerful as that, as like nobody can ask me. Abacha is a very good example of that. Nobody is untouchable. Abacha was that powerful. The only thing left for Nigerians at that time was for them to close their eyes and pray in the name of General Sani Abacha. We ask, we demand, because it was so powerful that it was so present. There was no social media. All these things that you are seeing on social media today, they were things that we say in hushed tones during the times of Abacha. And Abacha was practically telling people that, listen, They can demonize me. They can say all of this. I'm not saying I'm good. But you see, those people who are demonizing me, they are more evil because their stock in trade is tribal, ethnic, religious division. Abacha was presented to us as somebody we know if speak. We know a stark illiterate. In fact, they make jokes about Abacha around that time because those who were telling the stories of Abacha, the Lagos Ibadan media, they were the ones that hung Goodluck Egbere Jolantan in the public square to be lynched, all right, for, in his own way, for trying to fix the same Nigeria. Then the same Lagos Ibadan Expressway media who have managed to recruit enough for the same social media were those who paraded a dictator, a coup plotter, as a renewed or a repentant Democrat, Bokuwari, and they sold him as the change package that brought Nigeria to this state anyway. So Abacha knew. A majority of us grew up having this picture of Abacha, of somebody that was just like inherently evil. Like, why was he so evil? People were suffering. They were looting this money. Why? And people were not just that, people were disappearing, people were dying. High-profile politicians were slaughtered and killed by Abacha. But we didn't know that Abacha being a problem, Abacha was actually killing the Nigeria problems. It's like, it's like internal cleansing. You see those who presented themselves as better than Abacha, those who loved us, those who told us about democracy. Look at what they are doing to us now. And if you look back, what is the difference? Listen to Abacha describing his own distractors. He said, they are more evil than me. And that's now, I want you to listen to this because this video is also like 26 years old, just few months before Abacha died. Okay? He had this to say about Nigeria.
To ensure that some of these incidents are avoided. But at the same time, the transition program is for the nation, but the major players in the transition program are the politicians themselves. So the politicians themselves will have to come and bury their differences. Will have to play politics the way it is, not politics of animosity, not politics of religious or ethnic, sentiments or anything, no matter how devastating to the unity and stability of the nation. Once it favors that individual politician, he is ready to exploit it at the expense and at the cost of the unity or stability of the nation. So what we have done is clear, it's simple, it's straightforward, and it's step by step. But I tell you, we know we are all Nigerians. The politicians themselves, it's a big challenge on them. They need a change of attitude, a change of mind for them to come and play responsible politics. And that's why even as far as rotation is concerned, as far as power sharing is concerned, which is the main issue in the politics of this country, we took the pain to go into detail and divide this nation into 6. So the question of majority, the question of minority is absolutely immaterial. It's question of quality. It's question of the individual Nigerian who possesses the right leadership, who possesses the right quality. That is the issue. So the question of marginalization is completely out of it, is absolutely addressed. So there is no section of this country that will claim to be marginalized as far as the present system is concerned. So the issue of marginalization is out. The issue of sharing or involvement in power in this nation is out. And all these things, we took upon account of our past experiences as far as the political evolution of this nation is concerned. And we believe and we pray what we have done is something which is enduring, which will reinforce the peace, the stability, the unity and the understanding of this nation, and which will form the basis of a stronger, a sounder democratic system to ensure that some of the...
Did that sound like somebody who is a stark illiterate? Abacha spoke clearer English language than Buhari. Is that a lie or a lie? Abacha is clearly spoke better English than Buhari. But you see, tinubu, hi, and their gang, despite being a double agent working for the same Abacha, they were able to use that media, not social media, media at the time, to present him in a different way, and they were the better people. You will never want to doubt it. There are people in Nigeria today that strongly believe that all of these things that they are hearing about tinubu, they are only coming from people, okay, who hate Nigeria or who just don't like tinubu. In fact, he is in fact a better person. But you know what tinubu and gang did? The same people who convinced some section of Yoruba land that Obasanjo is not Yoruba. Today, Obasanjo, we have the image of Obasanjo's father, Obasanjo's mother. We know Obasanjo's homestead. We know Obasanjo's siblings. We know Obasanjo's other family members. We know Obasanjo's family house. Okay? But the same media in the 80s and 90s, starting from when Obasanjo collaborated in denying Awolowo the supposed victory of 1979. Again, the beginning of the propaganda was escalated. The propaganda became more escalated in the 90s by the tinubus. And I promise you, if you see anyone who was born in the 80s and 90s, a Yoruba, that will tell you that they've never heard before that Obasanjo is not Yoruba, that person is lying. For so many people who took it up, because to them, Obasanjo must be Omoale Yoruba. It's only Omoale. Obasanjo, you know, see Obasanjo's this. They cooked the story enough to make everybody believe that they said Obasanjo's father, they said he was a soldier. Okay, and he traveled from Anambra and he arrived in Owu. And Obasanjo's mother, a trader, he became pregnant. So that man now left as a soldier and nobody saw him again. And that's how they gave birth to Obasanjo. The story, as stupid as it sounds, was promoted by a man that failed to that is not proud to present his own mother or father. Even those who are adopted, when a child is adopted, once they become adults, they usually, if they want to, they usually go look for their birth mothers or birth parents just to have a closure. Tinubu is the only one that was adopted by Abibatu Mogaji from Ibadan. But that was it. Nobody knew the life before him, before that. That was the person that continued to propagate, this has been for years, so that Obasanjo was not Yoruba. So this animosity, power sharing, this or that, Abacha knew it very well too. The dead dictator was only just taking his turn, I believe. Watch this too. This was on CNN just 2 months before Abacha suddenly dropped dead. A young person was on the CNN promoting Abacha.
Majority wish of the people of Nigeria that they want him to continue.
Now, if he does run and he does decide to take up this will as you describe it, would he run as a general or would he run as a civilian?
He will run as General Sani Abacha.
So he'll run as the general. Well, Mr. Nas, don't go away. We will get back to you in just a moment. Let's get across to Daniel Kanu, who's standing by also waiting for us in Dallas, Texas. Daniel, you're in charge of a group that is very supportive of General Sani Abacha's regime and everything, and you basically have said that you will make it, to quote you, I think, ungovernable in Nigeria if the general doesn't continue in charge. What do you mean by that?
Well, Youth Honestly Ask for Abacha is a highly motivated organization. We believe that General Abacha is the right candidate to lead this country. We believe in what he has done for the youth of the country. He has invested a lot. A lot of money have gone through the Petroleum Trust Fund, which has invested over $600 million in the Nigerian economy. He has done a lot for the people of Nigeria, and we believe that he's the best person. And the youth of Nigeria are dedicated to seeing that he continues, irrespective of what the opposition said. And there's another factor. The sheikh of a man that made all the allegations last week, we have to look at his record. It is important that we know who we're listening to. Sheikh, as we know it, is a wife abuser. He kidnapped, back when his child was 5 years old, he kidnapped a child in London without due process of the British law. So we need to look at the record of the people that are opposing Abacha. A good majority of Nigerians are strongly in support of General Abacha.
Daniel, let me ask you briefly then, basically, what if the people of Nigeria reject General Sani Abacha at the polls? Will you accept that decision?
The majority of Nigerians are strongly in support of Abacha. Based on what we have seen, based on the rallies that we've held, considering the turnout at the past 2 million youth march, which we had almost a turnout of 3 million people, we believe that majority of Nigerians are in support of him, and we don't expect anything different from that.
Although media reports put the number at a lot less, probably around 100,000. But let me ask you, if the polls do actually go ahead and put General Sani Abacha out of power, would you respect that decision by the people if they do vote him out?
We respect the decision of the people, but at this time and for the future to come, the majority stands strongly behind Abacha.
Something happened to my audio.
Let me go across to Wada Nas, who's been on the line with us. He's an advisor to General Abacha. Let me put an email question to you, please, Mr. Nas. This came from Nigeria, from Lagos, and it says, do you think continuous criticism of the government will sway and prevail transition? I don't think so, but please comment.
But I don't think there is much criticism about the government. But all the same, I know there are some people, for their own selfish interests, they do criticize the government, but not because the government is failing.
Selfish interest, that's how they criticize government.
Let me ask you an email question also from Uganda here, please, Mr. Nas. It says, will Sani Abacha consider forming a government of national unity with pro-democracy forces?
All that I know is that General Sani Abacha is elected, he will form a government.
Okay, let's get our caller on the line. First caller on the line from England with a question. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Chairman. Why can't the head of state come out openly to tell the whole world that he wants to contest the presidential elections?
I guess that should really go to Wada Nas, please, Mr. Nas. Why hasn't he come out and said that he's going to contest the elections?
So they were just the one doing it for him.
Sure,
listening
to us that when the time comes, he will come openly and tell the Nigerians his intention. So there is no hurry.
Okay. So Daniel, your group is actually basing your actions in support of General Sani Abacha on what we're hearing so far is that he actually hasn't said he wants to run. So how do you basically support someone who hasn't actually come forward and said they're going to run as president?
Well, our supreme objective initially was to create a worldwide awareness of all his accomplishments, which we have done so far. And we are continuing on to convince him, to convince his family. to help us to lure him into contesting. We believe he's the right candidate, and we're working strongly towards that. We have held several symposiums at universities all over the country.
And Daniel Kanu at the time was just about,
and the
it
people
was
of the world
about
need to know
24
this.
years
It's very
old.
important that we
Very
listen
young
to
guy.
Nigerian voices, not the people, not the renegades that are out running around from capital to capital, parading themselves with briefcase, collecting money to pursue their own selfish interest. We need to recognize and listen to the Nigerian voices. We need to listen to the Nigerian children, and they are strongly in support of General Abacha. I wish you can send a delegation to Nigeria. I would be glad to take them around. I will take them to places and let them see the tangible accomplishments that the great general has laid down for the future of that country. It is important. These are things that are there on the ground, and we need to recognize and pay attention to it.
All right, this question I'm going to...
Any similarity? Anything different from what you see today on your TV? When people speak for Bokwari for 8 years? Listen, all these people who are jumping here and there, who are just talking all these things about the president. The president is so interested in building the country. The president is working very hard. Listen, that's Daniel Kanu. He was about 22 or 23 years old, though, in that time. Daniel Kanu. He was the young guy who got the contract to mobilize the young people by organizing, football matches, organizing bogus competitions where people win something, organizing, concerts where artists are brought in and paid. He was less than 24 years old. So have you seen those you see today around? 26 years after that. Do you see the similarity today? Because those who told us Abacha was this or that, they were called pro-democracy, the pro-democracy group. And tinubu and gang, they were part of that. For their pathway to power, they went on to go and bring Abacha's ally, Bokwari, another dictator, so that through him, they have a close possibility of getting to power. 26 years after that, they are now in power. Now you realize that anybody telling you that they want to fix Nigeria, in order to keep that contraption, they are only doing so for themselves. A lot of you are going to help them. The only thing the only solution to bring all of this to an end is to join us to continue to advocate for the breakup of this contraption. That will break the cycle. Those who said they would make Nigeria better, democracy was what Nigeria needed, 26 years after, they are now the ones in government. Some of you are looking back today and like, Abacha was better. Really? So some people are kind of going to tell you now that you deserve better life. You deserve this or that. Nigeria will be great. New Nigeria is possible. This or that. Only just to use you for the moment. You're going to look back years after and be like, that time was better. Unfortunately, there are those who are already saying Bokwari's time was better. Can you not see through it? That we cannot keep doing the same thing again and again and expect a different result. Abacha died 26 years ago. Many of your parents, they were on the streets celebrating the freedom, the democracy they were promised. Oh my God, God is a miraculous worker. This must be God. God must have heard the prayers of the poor. 26 years after. Some of you, the children of those parents, yeah? Because some of you were born 26 years ago, 25 years ago, 24, 20 years ago. Many of you are parents yourself, meaning some of those who celebrated the death of Abacha like it is the end of their suffering and horrible leadership. People who made them believe that they took over their lives. See what they have done in 24, 25 years. Somebody is going to tell you, we need to rescue this country. We need to save ourselves, our generation unborn. And okay. Then that happens because you are keeping a contraption that is indeed set up to fail. Why do we want to continue to keep it together the same way the rogues who are in charge actually wanted it to be? Every time they tell you they want to fight to make Nigeria better, no, they want to use you into getting to power, take their turn, do whatever they think is right. Now your own body will tell you, just like under Bukwari, now under tinubu. There are those who are telling you right now that they could make Nigeria better. Maybe one of these days, they too, if Nigeria still exists, they will have the chance, and they would then tell you that those before them, they've destroyed things too much, pretending that they were not part of those who destroyed it. So, ladies and gentlemen, this issue of a regional system, regionalism, it is real. In fact, I have heard that the real issue is that, you see the one we saw online, that regional system that we proposed, that we saw online from 2023, then now to 2024, that one, that's not the real one. In fact, that one was deliberately pushed to go viral, just to test the reactions of the people. Arewa, if you are watching me from Arewa, I am not trying to possibly mock you, because the general belief is, or majority of the things that people say about regional system or breaking up of Nigeria and all of that, they are coming from the position of fear created by the same politicians that want to dissuade you from the positivity of the breakup of Nigeria. The only people that are against the breakup of Nigeria, they are the criminal politicians from every region of Nigeria. Abacha thought creating 6 regions, changing from the old 3 regions of the north, the east, and the west, to creating a 6th region that you now have, you call it a 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria today. Abacha thought that would make it easier for every criminal politician from all these zones to rotate power among themselves without having to ever think of breaking up of Nigeria. That was Abacha's solution, but it was to benefit it first. But it didn't benefit, it died. Okay? Now, the criminals from all parts of these Nigeria regions, they have contributed immensely, so hugely, right, into the destruction of their regions. The 6 geopolitical zones in Nigeria is ravaged with terrorism, poverty, underdevelopment, that is a dilapidated infrastructures, unemployment, horrible, horrible things that a good governance could actually really fix. While majority of them became super rich just by using their region's tickets as their meal tickets at the national hearing desk. So it's never worked for anyone. The current Nigeria, as much as they will make some of you from northern Nigeria to believe that you are born to rule, that's one of the stupid lies that were told by politicians. Because this Nigeria can't break. This is their feeding bottle. But for those of you who come from all these regions, the northwest, northeast, north central, southwest, southeast, south, These were the creation of Abacha. But listen, is there any one of you that come from all of these 6 geopolitical zones that can raise up your hand and say you are having it better than any other region or geopolitical zone in Nigeria? Anybody? Apart from your or our criminal leaders that brags about how many times they have been in power, save for that, what else do you have to show for it? So if you are watching me from Arewa, I know you have a different mentality about Nigeria. Many of us from southern Nigeria have different mentality about northern Nigeria too. But there were actually those from northern Nigeria, from southern Nigeria, who have experienced both because of, before Nigeria got so divided like this. It used to be like an exchange of culture, tradition, and that trade and all that. But the same politicians who have now brought us to this stage, they want you to believe that a certain region is going to suffer more when Nigeria break. In some areas, they want you to believe that minorities will suffer more if Nigeria breaks or Nigeria goes into regionalism. All of this fear, they were the creation of the beneficiaries of one Nigeria. And guess what? They know the only thing that ever worked for Nigeria, ever, this contraption, was when everybody was minding their own business. The moment they started making us to poke nose into our businesses, Wahala started. Development became stunted. The growth too. And now we are ravaged with poverty, corruption, terrorism. So what exactly do you think you're going to lose? I may understand your fear, by the way, especially when we look at the characters who are pushing the regionalism. Fine. Tinubu and his gang cannot be trusted. If it is never going to benefit them, they will never do it. So yes, that is all right. But you need to drop that fear. That fear they told you that northern Nigeria is going to suffer if Nigeria break. The only people that will suffer when Nigeria either go regionalism or Nigeria breaks apart, they are the criminal politicians and their friends, economic saboteurs, economic terrorists that are controlling the levels of power just to fulfill or somehow, to fulfill the insatiable lust of their friends. Their glutinous friend who will never stop taking from the supposed poorest country. They are those that will lose. Is it terrorism that is going to make you miss Nigeria? Is it the religious fanaticism that will make you miss Nigeria? Of course, you're not going to miss anything. All of the time that the northern criminals controlled Nigeria, it has never benefited a single soul that is not from their circle in that northern area. Prove me wrong, because they have managed to now infect their fellow criminals from southern Nigeria to inject this same mentality of rankadede. Poverty is good. God loves the poor. Respect the rich, because respect your leaders because they are chosen by God. That kind of mentality are all imported to the southern part of Nigeria, but they are like age-long tradition. In northern Nigeria, it has not brought any real development. So you're not going to miss anything. In fact, you're going to be better. You're going to have the answers to the underdevelopment of northern Nigeria, the Islamic radicalization of the north, and all of those archaic, backward sort of mentality of those criminal leaders of yours. Who tells you to live in the ancient? Kill yourselves in the name of religion. But yet they are acquiring everything they tell you to reject. Every haram is what they are actually engaging in. They are stealing, they are looting. They are out there living the life of a luxury, royalty, while they watch millions of you. But it is convenient for them to lie to you about why they are unable to fix the northern Nigeria and why they continue to pursue Islamic agendas that has added no real life value to anybody in that northern Nigeria, except for the subjugation, for the control mechanism that is being used for. Listen, the moment they have no Nigeria to use as an excuse anymore, you will now understand why all these decades they intentionally impoverished, terrorized northern Nigeria. And you will not have the southerners or the infidels to hate on anymore. I promise you, you will fix the unfixable in northern Nigeria when you have your own regional system. And there's no more free money. Listen, if they tell you that you're going to lose the money that they are sharing from Abuja, ask yourself, how much have you benefited or how much are you benefiting right now in northern Nigeria, the Arewa North, from the allocation from Abuja as you are watching this video? Is that providing you safe environments? Are your farmers, are you safe on your farm, safe in your markets? Are your children safe in their schools? So what exactly is the federal allocation you are getting from Abuja? What exactly have you, would you say is the direct benefit you are getting from that? Except for the peanuts they share to validate the rest that they loot. You are not going to miss anything. In fact, just for everyone else too, you are never going to miss Nigeria. Those who are telling you that some minority will suffer, majority will enjoy. In Nigeria today, who are the majority? Who are the minority? The poorest Nigerians that cut across all regions, tribe, ethnic, religion, they are in the majority of those who are suffering in Nigeria today. And guess those, the minority that are enjoying? They are the criminals who told you, you have no other country but this one. And you must do everything to keep it the way it is. If anybody asks for anything different, what they are trying to do is to dislodge us from our feet. And you must not let that happen. Whatever they told you. And that is exactly why, to those of you who are worried that tinubu is going to divide Nigeria, or tinubu is bringing regionalism, your worry is valid. If because it is tinubu, because his own type of regionalism or whatever bill they are bringing, it's never going to be the one that I kind of will settle and be comfortable with. It's not going to be the one that tinubu will not have power. Okay? It's never going to be the one that is going to actually give you the true sense of self-determination. It's all going to be about the scheming. And from what I heard, it is going to be one with, a kind of a unicameral parliamentary system. However, it is the one that will make the ruling party to choose the president. It's not going to be the one that dissolve or devolve power anywhere. It is going to be the one that tinubu doesn't really have to contest election, okay? APC, Egbekegbe doesn't have to lose the election because they won't. So all he has to take is for them to keep majority, and he can be president till he dies. Don't take my word for it. It's just part of the suspicion that we have, since we now know that, you see that one you have online, the one I read to you the last time, is not the one that tinubu is going to receive this week. Secondly, the rumor about them trying to propose something about regional system is also true. However, tinubu and his team are also going to take the country on a goose chase, which is tinubu is going to promise to convene national conference. All of these are just going to be few crumbs of their plot to get few of us to begin to say, okay, but is that not what you're asking for? Mayegun? Are you not the ones who have been saying that they should call for national conference, they should call for this and that this Nigeria should be discussed? Why come you are not happy now? Do you understand? So I'm saying that they're going to give you things that are going to make you feel like, Tinubu, we know that Tinubu did not win, he rigged himself. But I mean, look at it's like he has plan to fix. No, he has no plan. Don't ever let your guard down. Remain vigilant and never live in denial. So I am here to tell you that the idea of this regionalism you are hearing is true. If you are watching me from Arewa, it is true. And from what I heard, yes, Tinubu is going to push it. And it's going to be pushed like it's not him. Everything is not going to look like it's him. It's going to be like some people were asking. And they were just trying to give it around. And as for the northern senators, northern lawmakers, this is going to be the time some of you are going to know that what Mayegun told you or keep telling you, that none of these guys represent you. And some of you believe, if they bring it, we will shut it down. You are going to experience what is called the rubber stamp. For the first time, you're going to see rubber stamp National Assembly that is going to practically work against everything they told you will never happen in Nigeria. And as for you, the Southerners, you better brace up, tighten your seat belts. You are about to be taken on a long roller coaster ride of mental manipulation and the rest. I shall be here. So that Tinubu and his gang are going to announce a national conference. Let's come and discuss this, Nigeria. And everyone and the number they need to ensure that it's going to look like, oh, it's like Tinubu is coming back to. No, it's not. Then they will move this towards their 2027. They will say, why don't you just let him finish what he's about to do? And they may even disguise it enough that it is in the interest of northern Nigeria. Yes, that's how good it's going to be. The Fulani North, Hausa, and the rest of the North, you are about to witness a Maradona that is going to knock everyone's head together. And you see this divide and rule you are witnessing now, it is going to be like a child's play, just so I warn you. You are going to see a lot of your favorites that are going to organize rallies, symposiums. They're going to appear on your TV to help take you onto that Tinubu Segu's chase. Kind of a warning ahead. I want you to know that it is true. And you are going to begin to see more of that in the coming days and weeks. Arewa, that said Tinubu is going to be a one-term president. You probably are going to have the reason to see that it is all a myth. That to become a president in Nigeria, or if you want to continue to be president in Nigeria, you must make sure that you bow for northern Nigeria. You are about to be shown that that myth is actually dead. Northern Nigeria, southern Nigeria, or whatever it is you want to claim that you are so important about in Nigeria, none of you have any power to make anybody president. They just wanted your validation, make you feel like you did it, so that if anybody is coming for them, they can convince you that somebody is about to take your mandate from you. Oh yeah, go and fight. You all know you don't make any shit, right? But yes, you are about to understand, right, that the president of Nigeria is actually next to God. And I'm not trying to blaspheme. He is more powerful than whatever God you think you have out there. You know why? Your imaginary God may be so powerful to touch the heart of the most powerful. That's your own theory. The president of Nigeria, when he chooses to use that power, is actually a dictator, a demigod, or a semi-god, or whatever, a demigod in the making that can take life, even though he can't create one, right? He can end life. And he can turn your day to night when nobody will actually ask or touch him, except when somebody superior pull up a gun. And that's also rare. Who is going to pull the trigger as well? So tinubu is going to be that. And every day he's consolidating his power that way, right? You probably would have to resort to, God, please come and intervene. Wait for the sky daddy to come and take him out. The magician. So yeah, tinubu will change the Nigeria anthem without any consultation. It's the same tinubu, okay, that is going to force the hand. Remember one, it will force the hand of those you think will stand for you in the north, okay? It will make some of them disappear. I remember saying it to some of you when they said, oh, you see these Fulanis, they have the plan of killing tinubu. I said, are you sure? If you think that a shitty man is dangerous and he could possibly do something to tinubu, that's all right. I have something, I have a theory, that if a shitty man becomes something that is a puzzle in their, it becomes a trouble in their puzzle or whatever, right? They can always make him disappear too. Yes, that's how mafia or mafioso, tinubu and his gang, they are in charge. Well, we shall continue to monitor that. You know me now, the moment they kind of make it public, I will be one of those to show you that, right? So finally, this evening is going to be the deadline between the Nigerian workers and the tinubu's tripartite committee. Tinubu has offered the workers 62,000 naira as minimum wage. And the workers, they have rejected it, even though they've also beat down their own demand from 494,000 naira minimum wage to 250,000. So this evening, we would have to know if the strike continues tomorrow, or they're just going to have to call it off. Because the offer on the table right now is that take it or leave it. You're not getting more. The workers are saying we are not going to take it. We will leave it if you're not offering more. So the showdown is tonight, or maybe tomorrow. So I'm going to gather more on that, okay? So this guy, Father Mbaka, yeah, Mbaka has something to say on that. I want you to just possibly just take the message and leave the messenger. You know Mbaka anyway. A quick one. This is his own view on what is likely going to play out.
Or what we dream, but out of fear, we cannot release to the public because we must know that people are suffering. Think of it. If we decide to give labor people 60,000 naira or 62,000 naira, why not generalize it to House Assembly members, to senatorial members, to House Arrest members, to our governors? All of them are civil servants. Are they not? Yeah. So if all of them are civil servants, why are these people slaves? Have they come to serve who? Because we cannot imagine why somebody can be amassing billions and billions and billions, sitting allowance, newspaper allowance, wardrobe allowances, vehicle allowances, and what they call is it suffering allowances or what? Eh? Suffering allowances. So the people that should have such allowance should be the poor masses in the villages. If a teacher, how much are they being paid for those who are grooming our children for us? How much are they being paid? Our nurses, how much are they being paid? Our doctors, how much are they being paid? Let us be realistic. Our civil servants that wake up from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they wake up early and come back late. How much are they being paid? And look at the level of inflation in the country. How are we becoming sincere? All of us should know we are not sincere. So I am pleading with the government that a stitch in time can save 9. It's a matter of handling the bull by the horn, tactfully, but very, very speedy. Because if they are not careful, this crisis of a thing can be hijacked and nobody will know the repulse effect. If they succeed in doing that, everybody will be endangered. If the government now will go on strike, labor will say, don't come out. No vehicle will move. Nobody will sell petrol. NEPA will not work. And so who will survive? At the end of it all, we begin to correct what we could have saved. So we can say that it may be a medicine after death. I don't know the labor people. I don't have contact with any government person I discuss with. Since I came back from the monastery experience, I've been praying and been watching the situation. Even the poor masses don't even have the morale to come and report to me again, because many of them join to say, Farambaka, keep quiet. Farambaka, keep quiet. Face your priestly work and forget the prophetic. Stop talking to the leaders. Now they are being victimized. They don't even have the face to come to me. I'm only speaking because I have the passion. It is a call. It is my mission to defend the less privileged people. And woe betide me if the poor masses are suffering and I'm silent because of what? At the end, who will not die? Even the rich people who are getting billions, will they carry one kobo into the casket? They should use their conscience. They should know they are created by God. There was a time they were like these poor masses. Why should they allow the poor masses to suffer like this and they are paying deaf ear to eat? What about constituency allowances? Where do they go? Internal generated revenues. How do they account for it? Talk more about security votes that come from there. Is it for anybody to enrich himself? What is actually happening is an inhumanity of man to man. Let us tell the truth. God is not happy with what is happening to the poor masses of Nigerians. And the leaders are provoking crisis that they may not be able to carry when the time comes. Please, from the presidency to the least, in the rank of the leadership, to the local government people, let them have meeting immediately and take care of these poor masses.
So what I usually ask people to do is, when I'm, taking us back to history like that, I do love to ask people to take out those years from their age or their ages. So if they take 26 years, if we remove 26 years from your age right now, how old you are going to be? Do you mind sharing? Like if they remove 20, for example, now, if you remove 26 years from my age, I'm going to be 14 years old, a teenager. So now think of how old you would be if we take 26 years out of your age too. Do you see how young you're going to be? Very young. And then when you look at where you are today to where you were 26 years ago, and then you look at where Nigeria was then and where Nigeria is now, that tells you all you need. That should tell you all you need to know. That with the way things are still being done, the next 26 years, how old are you going to be? I'm going to be 66 years old. Ha! That is what it is that the criminals in Nigeria are taking away from every generation.
Or what with them, but out of
for every generation. And they do so smoothly. Then there is a 1 out of 1,000 of us who finally kind of break through. Breaking through then means that, well, I mean, at least you made it. What happened to the remaining 999 that perished in that confusion? And many of them will die inside that same confusion. What happened to them? But at least you don't make them. See, those ones too, they will find their way. There are men that will never find their way. So 26 years from now, how old are you going to be? See people, Papa, see people, Mama. They were teenagers 26 years ago. Look at them now. So in 26 years' time, add it to your age. How old are you going to be? You watching me right now. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, you. How old are you going to be? In 26 years' time, I will be 66. I won't be looking like this anymore. Old, worn out, tired. That's what they want to take from you. Every time they tell you that Nigeria will work, they told a lot of us who are now parents today, they told us the same thing 26 years ago. I'll leave you with that.
Praise the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Receive it. Amen. Praise the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Praise the name of the
Thank you so much for your time. I've got a meeting in 10 minutes. I will see you some other time. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon or morning. See you later.
Mayegun làwa mọ̀ làmọ̀ tó dòdòdò.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Mayegun làwa mọ̀ làmọ̀ tó dòdòdò.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Mayegun ti dé o, ọ̀rẹ́ ará ìlú.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Lórí Facebook, lórí YouTube.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Gbogbo bó ṣe ń lọ ni Mayegun já wa sí.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Àṣírí ọ̀jẹ̀lú kì í bò níbẹ̀ o.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Bó bá ṣe eré, àní Mayegun máa wí.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Ó sì tún ṣe eré, wàá gbọ́ níbẹ̀ o.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Mayegun Diary, Diary Politico.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Godfatherism kò sí lọ́rọ̀ Mayegun.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Ẹ farabalẹ̀ sẹ́ o, kẹgọ́rọ̀ lẹ́nu o.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Àní Mayegun làwa mọ̀ tó dòdòdò.
Mayegun Diary, Nayibi #1.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé. Mayegun ti dé.
Ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Lórí Facebook.
Mayegun ti dé.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Lórí YouTube.
Mayegun ti dé.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Bọ́ bàbá gbé wúrẹ́.
Mayegun máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Ijó ìgbádìyẹ.
Mayegun máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Bí pẹ̀sìdó bá rúfin o.
Mayegun máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Bí gómìnà kówó jẹ.
Mayegun máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Ọlọ́pàá tí ń darí bá.
Mayegun máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Aṣòfin tí ń rúfin o.
Mayegun máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
Òpùrọ́ olóṣèlú.
Mayegun máa wí.
Àní ẹ̀sùn ràkì.
Mayegun ti dé.
ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ súnra kì
Máyégún ti dé.
àní ẹ̀ súnra kì
Máyégún ti dé.
Máyégún ti dé gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ súnra kì Máyégún ti dé gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ súnra kì ṣùgbọ́n ní bá ti ṣe èyí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe ọmọ bá dèrò ní fi wọ́n níran o.
Máyégún ti dé gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ súnra kì. Máyégún ti dé gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ súnra kì. ṣùgbọ́n ní bá ti ṣe èyí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe ọmọ bá dèrò ní fi wọ́n níran.
Wọ́n fowó bẹ́ẹ̀ o Máyégún ó sọ pé wọ́n ò bẹ́ẹ̀ wọ́n fowó bẹ́ẹ̀ Máyégún ó sọ pé wọ́n ò bẹ́ẹ̀ oníkan ṣáàtì ṣe èyí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe fáwọn ará ìlú tó gbé wọn débẹ̀ o àyè.
Máyégún ti dé gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ súnra kì. Máyégún ti dé gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ súnra kì. ṣùgbọ́n ní bá ti ṣe yìí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe ọmọ bá dẹ́rọ̀ ò ní fi wọ́n níran.
Kì máa yí ṣe eré ọ̀rọ̀ yìí kì í ṣe ẹ̀fẹ̀ kì máa yí ṣe eré ọ̀rọ̀ yìí kì í ṣe ẹ̀fẹ̀ ẹni bá ti lè lẹ́bọ̀ lẹ́rù o ọmọ bá dèrò kàṣàyè tú wọn síta.
Máyégún ti dé gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ súnra kì. Máyégún ti dé gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ súnra kì. ṣùgbọ́n ní bá ti ṣe yìí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe ọmọ bá dẹ́rọ̀ ò ní fi wọ́n níran.
tẹnitẹni ọmọ Máyégún ọ̀rẹ́ ara ìlú mọ̀mọ́ ni mo fọlọ́hún ṣọ́ ẹ̀ bá kìlẹ́bù lóòótọ́ olódodo ìlú ọ̀tá ìlú mọ̀mọ́ ni ìwọ ṣá máa ń ṣọ́ra kò sì mọ́ bẹ̀rù bọ́tà ń lè rí bóníṣègùn lé káwọn mọ̀mọ́ fi ṣera wọn ni ó ti dẹrùn tí wọn ò gbọ́dọ̀ sì mọ́ bẹ̀. èèpo ọ̀gọ̀lọ́mọ bá dérò tàjẹ́ ò gbọ́dọ̀ jẹ́ ó ti jọba lórí àbínú ẹni kò sì mọ́ fòyà àìsíwọ́lu ní ẹnìkẹ́ ìgbódì ẹyin lábàrá o ó kó ẹni tó bá dán o àkàmù. Máyégún ti dé gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ túnra kì. Máyégún ti dé gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ túnra kì o ẹni bá ti ṣe yìí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe ọmọ bá dèrò òní fi wọ́n níran o.
Máyégún ti dé gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ súnra kì. Máyégún ti dé gbogbo ọ̀jẹ̀lú ẹ̀ súnra kì. ṣùgbọ́n ní bá ti ṣe yìí tó yẹ kí wọ́n ṣe ọmọ bá dẹ́rọ̀ ò ní fi wọ́n níran.